You like comics? You bet we do. How about artwork? Yeah, we fucking love that too. You like movies? Whether they are old or new. How about streaming? We watch that fucking shit, it's true. But it's comic book art that gets us all fired up for the all-time great. So let's buckle up. Hear me out, I'ma tell you how it all goes down on the Blacklist Underground.
Welcome to the Blacklist Underground, brought to you by Ideal Organic CBD, starring our favorite artist, Zach Howard. Hey, Zach.
Hola.
Zach's creator of the hit series Wild Blue Yonder, as well as illustrator of The Cape, Hellboy, Judge Dredd, TMNT, and too many others to mention. I am your host, enthusiastic comic book aficionado, JC Washburn. And each episode we choose a comics legend to ink a drawing of. And this week's giant who's getting blacklisted is none other than industry legend Walt Simonson. And this week we welcome our special guest, Dan Panosian.
Yeah.
Hey, Dan.
How's it going?
Dan is author of Slots, John Tiffany, The Unkindness of Ravens, and many others, and is one of the planet's most in-demand comic creators among drinkers and drawers alike.
Oh,
Zach, hit us up with our Patreon blacklisters this week.
all right. We got even a new Patreon this week. What do you know? So we're going to burn through these, no particular order. Patrick McNerney, Steve McKay, Kurt Kroll, star of Kurt Kroll 4, son of Kroll, Olga Macia, Philip Jean-Pierre, Anthony. It's not just DiGiorno, it's DiGiello-Nardo. Andrew J. Brown, Bill DeGeest, Scott Buon, Robert Berman, Danny Earls, the pro soccer player, Max Machado, Black Belt, Claire Meath, and our newest, Damon Smith. I said you got a stripper pole in your office? What's up?
No, those are it's mirrors. Everything with me is smoke and mirrors.
Don't you have a Frazetta on your wall somewhere? I think I saw that in one of your episodes.
Yeah, I got a Frazetta up here, and I got another one over here. It's a print from his gallery. It's Cat Girl, and he also he remarked it. So it's a artist proof. So it's pretty cool.
Very cool.
So it's a nice little drawing of a woman, minus any clothes.
Yeah, that was his forte.
Once or twice. We did an episode on Frazetta with Runge. That was pretty fun. He
talented.
Painted it, and then we ended up giving it away to one of our Patreons. It was pretty cool.
Oh, that is cool.
Yeah, ridiculous what he did with it.
I'm sure that guy's a fantastic painter.
Welcome, Dan. One of the things that we do with every episode is we read a quote from the artist that we're blacklisting. And it's Simonson this week. And we're all kind of, I think, in that age category where, I mean, I know for me, the triumvirate that I grew up with in the 80s was pretty much Simonson, Byrne, and Miller.
Right.
You know, those were kind of the big ones.
Yeah.
And I think pretty much everything I've ever read since then has got to measure up to those guys. So I'm a huge Simonson fan. Simonson wrote the intro to the Byrne Masterpiece Edition. And today happens to be John Byrne's birthday. He turned 70.
Happy birthday, Mr. Byrne.
We should have been doing John Byrne.
Well, in a way we're going to, because I just want to read this bit that Simonson wrote at the beginning of the John Byrne book. John Byrne brought a variety of abilities to the table. Byrne has one of the best grasps on the geometry of three dimensions among comic artists. His rendering of the volume his characters occupy, his fluency at grounding his characters inside his scene, his placement of multiple figures in the same space, his ability to create a convincing world within which his characters moved, all these things revealed a remarkable gift for the imaginative rendering of three-dimensional space on two-dimensional sheet of paper. And he did it all fluently and from multiple points of view. He's almost describing himself.
So vain.
A little bit. I mean, you know.
Kind of got to be, though.
No, I'm kidding, of course. That guy's one of the most generous guys in comics as far as, like, you know, helping others. And
I don't think I've ever heard a bad word from one human ever.
No, you'll never hear a bad word about Walt Simonson.
No, I showed him a portfolio when I was a kid. He must have spent a half an hour with me, and it was terrible.
Yeah.
And I've heard that Byrne is not quite as he's not so friendly with his time.
Maybe, yeah, I don't know. I met John Byrne one time, very briefly on a bus from from a hotel to a convention, and I just kept my mouth shut. And he's such a hero of mine from my youth. I was like, I don't know what I could possibly say to upset him, but I just don't. I don't want to.
Why try?
I don't even want to try. And plus, I was one of those new X-Men guys, Image guys at the time, and I'm sure he was looking at that work, shaking his head, going, "These guys have no clue." And he's obviously right. But I didn't want that to color my time with the guy.
Were you in the room when Liefeld offered him $100,000 for per issue to draw and write Supreme?
No, I mean I never knew the exact figures he was offering people. I mean, he worked with Alan Moore. He worked with a lot of people. If Dave, I got to ink Dave Gibbons on a wraparound cover.
You did?
Yeah, with all the extreme characters for some kind of crossover event. It was neat with Rob. If Rob was a fan of the same guys we're all fans of, and he was very generous. He wanted to work with these people. He certainly made it worth their while. Can we get a close up on Zach's inks? I want to see the master at work here.
So what are you working on right now, Dan?
Well, it's one of those. Guess what? I can't say.
Oh, fancy!
But it's a very. I'm writing 3 books for different publishers. They're all super exciting, very different stuff. But I'm also drawing a book that a big marquee writer is at the helm. So I'm working off a plot, but the plot is just super tight. It's kind of like working the old Marvel style.
Cool.
Which I got to do just a tiny bit because I wasn't much of a penciler back in my Marvel days. I was more of an inker. But every now and then they throw me a bone and I got to pencil something, and it was a disaster. But this is not a disaster. This is a lot of fun, and it's a great experience, and it's a writer I have a tremendous amount of respect for, and it's a great genre. So I can't wait to announce it. But it's what this business is so weird. It's always hush hush on everything as if it's like top secret information.
Truly,
it really isn't. It's really just I always think the more you can talk about something, and the more there's buzz about it. It can only help, but apparently that's not how they like to run things. So
I couldn't agree with you more. When we did the Wild Blue Yonder Kickstarter back before that's what you did. We caught a lot of early shit for doing Kickstarter, but I don't know. I think it's really important to. I showed stuff for a year before the book came out, and I think that really helped it because I think people were kind of frothing at the crotch by the time it came out. I've never understood like overt secrecy. I don't know, get them all hot and bothered for your stuff.
100%.
I'm not a superstar, so I gotta get the fans thinking of me.
Sometimes you don't have the the hype machine behind you.
And Kickstarter kind of acts as kind of like a proxy PR machine too, because it creates a lot of investment and patronage, of course, but also loyalty. People want to see you succeed. Then I think.
Yeah, I've yet to do one. That's another thing I have in the works. So I'm excited about that.
Going to make $100 billion, Dan.
Wouldn't that be nice?
You get all in Ethereum, though. Dave can tell you how to spend it.
Yeah, Dave style.
I was so close to buying that Ethereum. Dan, I read your I read Unkindness of Ravens.
Yes.
You are a great writer, dude.
Yeah, you got the storytelling chops, brother.
Thanks so much.
I really enjoyed it, and I just blew through the 5 issues it just reads. It's like butter. It's like surfing. And at first I thought I was going to be disappointed because you only did a couple pages. You only drew a few pages in the beginning. But the artist, did you have any input on the artist that you chose? She's terrific.
I had some, yeah. She's really good. I was following her on Instagram. That's where I first saw her work, and it was between her and Rossi Gifford.
Gifford, huh?
Yeah.
Another phenomenal young talent.
Yeah, they went with Mariana, and either one would have been great. I think I want to work with Rossi too. I can't wait till that happens, because I'm a big fan of hers, and she's one of those artists, like, you look at her work and man, she just keeps getting better and better all the time, and she's got a really unique vision.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
I saw her do a 3-pager, in one of her rare comics, and an ode to her boyfriend. It was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like analogous color palette and everything. So yeah, I think she's going to be one hell of a talent here, and whatever the hell she does, huh? Yeah,
hopefully whenever she gets done with whatever she's doing, it'll be like kismet. It'll be the right time, the right place, and
cool.
We'll see. Hopefully.
Well, good luck, man.
Was that series full script, or did you send her plots?
No, it's full script.
No kidding.
Yeah, that's just the way Boom wants to work, and I didn't, having never worked with her before, I didn't know, what she's accustomed to either, so
it's always that feeling out process with new collaborators, right?
Yeah.
We all play the guitar differently.
Yeah. And by issue 2, we had kind of figured out, how each other worked, and, it was pretty cool. I really liked the last issue.
Yeah, me too.
Awesome, man.
And there might be more of it. Like all these.
Well, yeah, it ends on a cliffhanger.
Yeah, so they might. I think they're shopping it around now and seeing what what can come of it, and so we'll find out.
Get a little scratch, and buzz, and go again.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind. I have. I'm sure you guys do this too. I have 25 issues like ready to go.
It could, that series translates very easily into a Netflix series.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Or even just a film.
Yeah, it'd be funny because there's so many opportunities now with the way media works and streaming services. It's it could be anything at this point.
I agree. What Jupiter's Legacy just got made, just turned around that quick, and wonderfully done. So it's amazing what they can do now, and they seem to have figured out that green screen stuff to make things a little cheaper and still not be Sci-Fi Channel quality.
Yeah.
Didn't mean to talk over you there, Dan.
Oh no. The Mandalorian is pretty crazy on how they managed to do that.
Did you watch the behind the scenes documentary, The Making of?
Here's the thing, I didn't even watch the series.
Hey, Dan's a guy like me.
I want to.
Shut your mouth.
That's how I am too. But the more you tell me to, the less I'm gonna do it.
Tess Fowler was beating him up a couple days ago about not watching The Mandalorian.
I think my wife just got the the streaming service the other day. So my son and I will watch it because how could you not watch Baby Yoda?
Well, your boy must be 7 or 8 now, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's same age as my boy.
It's a great age.
They can watch Mandalorian with me. It's totally cool. But I have to recommend the behind the scenes. What they do now is they've created like this big bubble where they can project the background behind the actors. Mm-hmm. So the actors are actually in the environment now.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's nuts that's how things are working, but great for everybody involved.
I agree. It's kind of like a Wild West time almost for entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of portals for getting your shit out there.
Yeah, and a lot cheaper than it probably was formerly.
It's got to be, right? Well, in most cases, unless you're making a Zack Snyder film.
Well, since we're doing Walt Simonson and Aliens here, I was reading some interviews with Walt about his process for making the Alien, the movie adaptation.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually flew him out to England to screen Alien before it came out.
I thought he drew it before he even saw it. I think I have the Master's edition that I read, and if you look at his old Alien, it looks nothing like what was in the movie, right?
Well, it was kind of it was partially done, but not totally done. I mean, the whole process was sort of a mishmash. But he did get out to see it before the effects had been inserted.
Ah.
But he had already seen 3 scripts, so he already knew more or less what was going to happen in those scenes.
Yeah, that was an amazing book.
Yeah, I mean, how ahead of his time was Walt? I mean, I think he kind of has the best knockout punch. I mean, if you're again coming back to our favorite '80s artists, if you're a Simonson guy or a Miller guy or a Byrne guy, I think Simonson sort of has the best knockout punch. Like you open up the double page spread and your jaw drops.
Like kinetic energy type thing. It kicks you in the chest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember his Teen Titans X-Men crossover, and that just killed me. I have a bunch of copies of that. I'm sure everybody does.
What is your go-to Simonson book, Dan?
Well, probably
Desert Island by yourself, Simonson book.
Probably that one. I mean, because I just such a Wolverine fan, and I loved everything about the Teen Titans at that time. I would have to say that book. I mean, obviously, I loved Thor. I loved Star. I remember reading Star Slammers and just
yes,
that was one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah, just seeing like this, he did this thing with an eyelid. I remember at the time, and people didn't do a whole lot of. I'm going to try to have to figure out some of this stuff. People didn't. You didn't have to put so much detail as you do now into some of this stuff, and you wouldn't see someone really working the upper eyelid of something the way he did, and I was like blown away. I'm like, wow, that's realistic, but it's still cartoony, and it just ticked off all the boxes for me.
Yeah, Arthur Adams is another devotee of that book. He always lists that as one of his big inspirations, and you can see that in his work.
I think Jeff Johnson's the same way, from what I can tell.
Oh, he is so good. I absolutely love Jeff Johnson.
Yeah, he
was fun on the show. I was pissed our Wolverine didn't get picked up that we were doing together. But shame. That would have been a fun 4 issues, man. But it burned Vegas to the ground with your favorite characters, but whatever.
Yeah, you never know. Those are the type of things that,
Yeah, it's technically kind of evergreen because it took place in 89 or something, whenever that was happening. So, but still, it's just funny how, whatever. Let's get back to Simonson.
Well, there's a guy on Facebook who has been, I don't know what his process is, but he's posting like in the on the Barry Windsor Smith page. He'll post entire issues drawn by Barry Windsor Smith, but he's found a way to reduce them just to black and white. So I don't know if he's privy to the artwork or how he's doing it, but I think he's connected to one of the Michael Golden groups too, because he's been posting like Michael Golden stuff stripped of color too. And but the Windsor, what you mentioned about the eyelid, and I remember that from you mentioned that from Star Slammers, and it popped right into my mind. I could see that eyelid that you're mentioning. But I'm looking, those first Machine Man issues that Barry drew. It was Trimpy did the layouts. Because Windsor Smith had forgotten how to draw sequentially. He'd been doing, his print work for so long and kind of had forgotten comic books. I guess that's possible. And but I'm looking at this. A lot of people were remarking that, Windsor Smith put so much line work into those issues that was never going to see. Like for all they knew, no one was ever going to see it because the printing was so crude back then that the line work was all sort of muddied together anyways. I mean, he was going in there with such fine lines, and Simonson's in the same. Of course, Simonson had, the Alien stuff came out through Heavy Metal, and those guys were ahead of their time as far as the printing quality and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, 100%.
And Louise Simonson actually colored, I believe, a fair portion of the Alien adaptation.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. She used to do the coloring back then. She was originally married to Jeffrey Catherine Jones.
Yeah. Yeah, I knew that. What a little legacy.
I didn't know any of that.
You did not know that.
I didn't.
Yeah, there's
now that you do, everything changes.
Changes a little bit.
My whole vector of life, my life thrust.
What are you going to do with that information?
I'm going to thrust differently.
Yeah, you're doing a lot of different thrusting.
Yeah, I'm a man of many thrusts. They say that.
You're probably happily married.
I am.
Ooh, look. This is interesting.
Ooh. Take a look at that. That's very cool.
Your noodling is something to envy, Dan. Is there any excuse me?
I said, please, come on. They need a new interface for Facebook just to keep up with the detail. I mean, you need a zoom lens. It's nuts on what you do.
Mine's psychosis. I think yours is more excellent execution. So I can't take full credit for my idiocy. But what I mean by you fill these black shapes, like all this crap right here, I'm making specific anatomy and then I end up blacking it in. But you're finding these fun little noodles in yours that I can never find in mine. I don't know if it's a cowardice thing or what, but I have trouble doing that. I'm always envious of the guys that can just kind of find those fun little patterns in blacks.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. Mark Irwin and I always talk about your inks. We just look at them and go, wow, I don't even know. And Mark's an accomplished inker. And
he inked me on Aliens. Speaking of Mark, that's where we met. That's
where I first got introduced to your stuff. Mark Irwin had shown me. I looked at it like, oh, this guy's out of his mind.
2009 too, so that was a long time ago. So I'm glad that's when I got reintroduced to your work. Is Mark cross-pollination? Mark Irwin was showing me your stuff, and I couldn't even believe it because I remembered you obviously as your previous work. So, and that kind of I guess leads into I've never seen. Yeah, I'm pretty myopic and just a big idiot, but I've never known someone artistically to cover a distance, style, growth, breadth, accomplishment, library, anyone as much as you. And not to make this a complete, pole stroking fest, but it's nuts where you've come from, where you've gone, and how you just keep evolving.
Well, I mean, like you, I just first of all, thanks for even saying that stuff. But I just love this medium. We're just lucky, and there's so much to learn, and there's never going to be a stopping point. It's just this is too much fun, and it's if you want to, it's not the type of career you're gonna just go out. I figured it out. I'm good.
Done. Slap your hands. And
that's a good attitude, Dan. But I think a lot of guys do think they've got it figured out, and that's what makes you kind of special. Is because I'm
too dumb to stop.
It's like I noticed, like I'm going to say, like a year ago,
JC's taking over the pole smoking for a minute while my hand rests.
Yeah. Here, listen, I haven't had pants on this entire time. But I noticed
like keeps getting better and better.
Like a year. Yeah, like a year or two ago, I noticed your women were more beautiful than they had been before. I'm like, I wonder if he's consciously drawing better looking women now.
Well, I think it has a lot to do with, honestly, my wife. My wife is, she's a very big, reason why I've improved. What I have is because she'll talk to me about specifically about like the female characters, and she'll say, that girl that you just drew doesn't look like a real girl. It looks kind of like a plasticky, you see those beautiful, beautiful girls on, say, Instagram or TikTok or anything. And after a while, you're looking at them, and all of them are, the pretty ones are all knockouts. They're beautiful, beautiful women, but they end up kind of have kind of a similar sort of look. Like there's nothing individual about them.
Like an extruder almost. It's like, this is the pretty face.
Yeah, they're just exactly. It's like it's almost a filter. Like put in pretty face.
Yeah.
And she was like, give you have an opportunity to give these people some real character. So when people look at them, they see something a little bit different. They can still be pretty, but you want to make them ideally, look unique. And I respect her. And so, yeah, I tried to listen to everything she had to say.
Well, that's awesome.
The Simonson based, I want to say not the Enchantress. Who was the redhead in the Thor series? I forget.
Well, I don't think it was Sif.
I can't remember, but he based her on Debbie Harry.
Oh, interesting choice.
And I didn't find out until years later that he based her on Debbie Harry. But now when you look back on those issues, you say, oh, yeah, that he fully was drawing Debbie Harry.
So got that square face and everything?
Yeah. I mean, Simonson can do very, very sexy women. But and then, of course, in those days, Byrne was famous for what he called the balloon heads. All of his women, they just looked like they were helium-filled balloons, with interchangeable, hairdos or headpieces or stuff like that.
Well, what was interesting about Byrne is when he got married to, I hate to talk about like another artist, but Kieran Dyer's mother.
Yeah.
He started looking, I think, at women a little bit more, and his women started changing for the better. I was always a fan regardless.
Yeah.
But I think it's like we're all kind of little geeky fanboys, and whether you're into comics or not, like women are this mysterious, these creatures that we just maybe don't understand, or we want to, but we don't. And then when you actually live with one, you're like, oh well, geez, I'm allowed to just look at you, like really. Really study, and I think it kind of changes an artist a little bit,
I agree. I think life affects us on all levels, whether deliberately or not. So I think it's good to put a lot of positive reinforcements like that in your life, because I think it's only going to expand your work, whether it's good tunes or good movies or good relationships. And obviously the relationship, marriage is pretty intense. So there's a lot of opportunity there to learn dynamically where you couldn't if you're just kind of studying it from a sociological point of view or just assuming. So unlike JC, he's still assuming about women. He's going to touch one of these days.
Awesome. Congratulations.
I'm a quiver with anticipation. I love Dwyer. I love his work. I just haven't. Has he stopped doing comics more or less?
He does a lot of storyboards and commercial work. He's smarter than all of us. He knows where the money is.
He figured it out.
Yeah. He's a super funny guy. I mean, that guy just hilarious.
Never met him.
I think that I mean, if you're doing the father-son, who's the best father-son tandem in comics? You got the Ramitas, you've got the Kuberts, and then I think I would say Byrne and Dwyer. I know he's not his biological son, but did Kieran learn to draw from John, or
he was? I mean, the reason he met him in the first place was because I think he went to a signing.
No,
and his mother, and probably John was so smitten. He was like, who knows? I don't know what the relationship is. I can't speak on that, but it was that's how they met. So he was already a comic book fan, and I never ever thought like Kieran's stuff looked remotely like Byrne's.
No,
because I used to look at his stuff and read his stuff before he even, before I met him and before I even worked at Marvel. I would see his work.
Like, you mean the Captain America stuff? I think that was his first.
And I think Rick Remender was inking him back then. They're buddies.
Oh, Rick! Oh,
wow! Those old issues were inked by Milgram and by Danny Boldini or Boldani.
Danny Bolanowski or Bolana. Now I'm saying it wrong.
I'll trust you on that one. But I think
Bolanati, sorry.
I think Remender came along for Avengers.
Oh, was that it?
Yeah, when Kieran drew Avengers. But he also
were a good team.
Oh yeah,
probably because they were buddies, but.
Oh, I think that was probably Dwyer's. That was probably his best art phase. I think he drew Avengers for maybe a half dozen issues, and then he just went up in smoke, and I just never saw him again.
Yeah, he did some image stuff, and then he made, I think it was stuff that he also did this LCD comic that's like kind of this really raunchy, funny, like, parody book, and I don't even know what you'd call it.
Something like Starbucks, right? Wasn't there like a Starbucks?
Well, he did one thing, and Starbucks gave him like a cease and desist.
Right.
It's so lame. It was just a little goof on it,
They protect that. Who's Shannon Wheeler? Too Much Coffee Man. He got one too.
Oh, he did.
Mm-hmm. He got nuked by them, and he had a great little parody logo of theirs too.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Dan is what? I was trying to figure out what you were doing there for a second.
I don't even know.
I saw. Oh, wow.
Handing me my ass is what he's doing.
Now you're coming along. You're coming around the bend.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm all chunky, and he's adding all his fucking Jimi Hendrix English, playing the guitar upside down with his dick, and I'm here fucking with a marker. Thanks, Dan.
Dan, have you ever inked Walt?
No, this is the first time.
That would be an awesome combination.
I've always wanted to. I'd love to ink him, and I got to ink a fair amount of John Romita Jr.
Oh, cool.
But I didn't. I was back then. I know a lot of people say Marvel would force people to ink like Scott Williams. Nobody was forcing anybody to ink like anything. It's just that's what was selling, and so that's what if you wanted to work on those books and sell stuff, that's what you did. So I was inking that stuff as close as I could to say Scott Williams.
Yeah,
and I was putting some dry brush on it and some cool stuff, but not nearly enough that like what I would do now. Look, I can barely even talk when I'm thinking I turn into a little kid again, all nervous.
Well, people forget that Romita Jr. is in the same class as John Byrne and Walt Simonson, and well, maybe not quite as old as Walt, you know what I mean? But he's in that same group,
he was lucky that his father's there, and he's teaching him as he goes, and he wanted to do that, and so he was a young he was like the Joe Mediera of his time. He was a young guy working on that stuff, and he was doing the Daredevil stuff. Started to evolve into his whole blocky constructed, like everybody usually uses round shapes, and he was using what looked like squares to kind of, and rectangles to put everything together. And I just figured out what this thing is.
I'm having that problem with a lot of these shapes.
Yeah, and then you figure it out and you go, oh, this is his foot. Okay. But this is,
and then I've already inked it, so
sometimes it's a little too late.
Dan's going full Sergio Tapia over there.
Yeah, no shit, huh?
Well, I looked at this and I'm like, well, here's my theory on Walt. I really think that's what he is. I think he was enamored with
Sergio
Jack Kirby, and he was enamored with Toby, and from that era, like if you're a comic book guy, nobody's seen Toby.
No.
When I was a kid, nobody heard of him, and why would you? Because he wasn't doing superhero comics. And nothing of Topi's was translated per se. So there is very little chance that you're going to see Sergio Topi's work. But a learned guy like Simonson, of course, was, and he's contemporaries with guys famous artists, and he saw that stuff, and he's probably combined it, whether he did it intentionally or not. That's the type of thing that seeps into his work.
I think he was in the studio with Chaikin and Starlin.
Oh wow!
I think that was the crew, and like the Ragnarok and Roll title that came from Chaikin.
Oh, that makes sense.
And those guys, I love that episode of your show, by the way, when you guys had Chaikin on.
Yeah, I like him. He is a character, and man, what a big fan I was. I mean, we're talking about like that era of comics. There was the John Byrnes, and there was you had to see what John Byrne was doing. You had to see what Miller was doing. You had to see what Walt Simonson was doing on their books.
Yep.
But of course, you were also buying, American Flag.
Yep.
So they were all top performers. And what I loved about all those guys is they were all, for the most part, writing their own stuff.
Yes. Well, I heard that there was a point at which Shooter sort of had decided that it's, if an artist could, that he preferred that people write and draw and fully cartoon their own comics if they could.
I mean, I don't, and maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't see comic book companies doing a whole lot of that anymore.
No,
they seem to like they want you to stay in your lane.
Yeah.
And yet the stuff that we're all, I mean, Watchmen aside, the stuff that we're all excited about is the stuff that was kind of constructed with one vision. So it surprises me that isn't, something they want to foster a little bit more.
Well, I've always had a problem with the factory mindset of the industry. It's really myopic, and I get it. There's money to be made, and you got to play it safe. But to your point, I guess to dovetail that in, I think you're missing actual art and storytelling, and the magic that creates all the fun stuff that we remember forever.
Totally.
Or at least changes the industry. Sin City doesn't happen without a frustrated artist just wanting to do a singular voice again.
Totally.
So it's pretty rare in that.
Yeah, it is, and yet that's the stuff that is still, the stuff that we love the most. But DC let me recently do a really fun thing. I got to write and draw a Superman, and not only did I write, it's all based on Byrne, by the way.
Oh, that boxing issue?
Well, that was just one part of it. But yeah, there's boxing in it, which I loved, and but there was also, I got to write it, draw it, pencil, ink, color, letter, everything. I was pretending I was John Byrne. It was really made comics fun,
How cool.
That's super cool, man.
Yeah, they don't normally let you do that, but I had a great editor, so that was
well, that's good, man. I mean, anytime you have the diligence to follow through on when you're given it an opportunity like that, not squander and actually go kick ass, it's a rare thing, and it's good that you did that.
Yeah, I had I always liked. I've worked with her for a long time, Marie Javins, who's now the editor in chief over there, and then you have Katie Kubert, who's granddaughter of the Kuberts and everything. So it's and then Brittany Hausler. I don't know if you ever worked with her. She's just a remarkable young lady, and I asked if I could do it, and they were like, sure.
How cool.
That's very cool,
very
man.
rare that it works out that way. But
yeah, the artwork was that. I didn't read the story, but what I saw from the art online was gorgeous.
Oh, thanks. I had a lot of fun. Cully Hamner just did one, and I think he wrote it. I think he also wrote it, but he did everything. Like he colored it also, and
awesome. That must be amazing.
Yeah, it's not rare. I mean, it's not. When you have two colors, of course they're going to let the artist go crazy on that.
I saw there was a flash cover of yours I walked by at Walmart the other day.
And the big editions or whatever.
Yeah.
They are. Yeah, I kind of freeze on those things for some reason. I'm like, it's going to be in Walmart. It's going to be, little kids get to see this, and then I start thinking to myself about, being a kid and seeing Neil Adams stuff on the racks for the first time, and
cool.
I really get cold feet. So there's parts of that cover I loved, and then other parts that I'm like, oh my god.
Oh, I thought that
learning how to draw again.
that cover was great. And, you know, we talk about your name has come up on the show many times. And in my opinion, you are the cover designer, you know, out there.
Oh,
I mean, just because
I don't know about that.
so there's so much creativity and imagination put into your covers. It's really next level stuff. I mean, it's
everything I get from like Dave Johnson, honestly, when it comes to that. Those Dave Johnson covers he would do,
yeah,
you know, for 100 Bullets, when he kind of changed the whole, you know, he's like, what if covers look like paperback, you know, novels?
Yep.
He definitely changed the game with that.
Yeah.
Or at least forced people to take it seriously. His covers are what made me decide to finally quit making excuses and stop being a potter and do comics. That Batman run. So I can see that influence, though I don't think at this point there's a ton of overlap, though I get it. To JC's point, to add a little levity to the nut hugging, your covers have what you, I think, bring to the tables. You never seem to fall into like a trope or a track or a wheelhouse. You're always exploring with them,
right.
Whether a Red Sonja or Unkindness of Ravens. No two really are the same as far as format. You're trying collages, overlays, super designy stuff. I remember, I think you did a Batman or Nightwing cover or whatever character of that universe. I think it's a solid yellow background and this stunning upshot of a building.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, that was a Batman cover that you're talking about. I was trying to be like golden there.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, it's just, but still, you're able to. You bring so much of yourself to something, even when you're doing in your mind something to an homage, I guess. And this is probably testament to excellent art abilities. You seem to make it truly your own. And I think in an industry where everybody's just kind of ripping off the hot cover artist style du jour, your work stands alone, man. And sorry, I didn't mean you to come on here and us just beat you to death with
Are you kidding me?
gushy compliments.
This is great. I feel I'm going to be on cloud 9 after this is done.
You
can float home.
Yeah. I know I've told you this offline, but your Ghosted covers are maybe some of the best covers published in the last 20 years. That whole run that you did, just so imaginative.
Oh, thanks. Jeez. All right, I got to come back.
And then that time you saved that school bus from the fire, dude.
Yep. You pushed Tom Cruise out of the way and saved those people.
And you reached across with your body and you held the one train track and you with your toes you held the other end and the train didn't crash. That's pretty cool.
That was nice of me, right?
Yeah, dude. Way to go.
Yeah. Now, the other question is, should I bring out the real brush for this, or the almost real brush?
I debate that all the time.
Let's see.
I never expand the screen the whole way, but today I've expanded the screen just because all those little because this is how Walt inks. You know what I mean? It's very free form.
Well, that's for certain.
I mean, Walt's just so loose.
That's what people always say about my stuff. Freeform Zach, they call me. Loosey goosey.
I mean, Zach, it appears that way. I could see you labor on it, but it looks. I mean, everything is super confident and, amazing the way you do it. So I can see where people, think I don't know. You're a one of a kind.
Well, thank you. That's mostly psychosis, but I really appreciate it. We had such different journeys. I clawed my way in later. You worked your ass off early on with some badasses. It creates, I think, obviously two different types of artists, but it's really interesting about your journey. how did you initially, like, right away get in?
Well,
because nobody would pay me shit for time.
I was doing I was really into gaming, so I was doing Dungeons and Dragons artwork. Like, so I got into it from that side of it. And so I was doing gaming modules, and then I did some little comic book stuff here and there. Let's see how it's coming out. But yeah, so even in high school, I was doing stuff for like Eternity Comics. And
wow, so all the way back in high school, huh?
Yeah, and then by the time I got to Marvel, I realized I needed a lot of work. So I wanted to start as a penciler, but I got work as an inker, and I thought, well, I'll use this and I'll kind of work my way up. But, you know, like we were saying, you do get kind of pigeonholed, and it was kind of a fight to do it. And eventually I got to do Prophet, thanks to Rob. But after the kind of the bottom fell out of the comic book industry, I fell back on advertising. My dad was in advertising, and I knew I could make some money there. And then he passed away, and he was one of the reasons I kind of got into comic books in the first place. So I think it all kind of worked out in that sense. By the time I got back, it was Dave Johnson who looked at my work. I didn't know Dave. This is typical Dave story. I didn't know him, and I get a phone call from him. Somehow he got my phone number, and he was like, "Hey, you know, I never liked your work. I always thought you sucked." I can't do a good Dave. I can't do a good Dave impersonation, he goes, "But I saw some of your work in Muscle and Fitness, and if you drew comic books like that, you know, I'd buy your work." And it was a strange conversation. Obviously, I get off the phone with him, and all I heard was, Dave Johnson would buy something I drew. Maybe I should do comics again. You know, and it kind of gave me the impetus to get back. And it took me a while even to find my voice there, because I was under this impression that, look, if you're doing Marvel Comics, it has to look like Marvel Comics. So it wasn't really until Drink and Draw that I decided, you know, look, I'm just going to draw the way I draw. This is how I do it, or how I do it now, at least. And it worked out.
That's awesome. Because I think when you came back, you were flooring me with your Red Sonja covers. I mean, I stared at the horseback one with the little puff of smoke behind her for countless. I think I even wrote you. I was like, I want to ink this.
That would be, man, you would have killed it on that.
It just lit me up, and actually it led to, if you remember, I had a brief moment of testicular fortitude, and I asked you to color me on like some old MGM movie horror, Motel Hell. That's what it was. You colored me on Motel Hell. That was such an honor for me.
Oh, I really had a lot of fun with that. It was the first time I'd done something like that, where I'd colored someone else and worked with someone else.
You even colored my plaid. I was so proud.
That's funny. Yeah, and then you sent me some other amazing piece of work that you had. It was like was it a Bible book?
Well, yeah, that's how I made my first big bank, and was able to pay, or at least the down payment for my wife's hospital. Somehow, after I didn't get paid for Clockmaker. Jim Kruger forgot that check somehow got lost in the mail. The American Bible Association hired me, not knowing I was an atheist, to draw the story of Moses. And I got to work with, like, it was insanity. It was like Bill Sienkiewicz, Sergio Aragonés, you know, Kent Williams. It was just the oddest lineup. And I did the longest story in it because I was a replacement, like last minute. And they paid me $1 billion to draw Moses talking to a bush. So
I always wondered when I saw that, I go, well, maybe he's really religious. Maybe he's, you know, I don't know.
No, I was just desperate. Like you, I got in through gaming manuals. I worked for Steve Jackson Games.
Oh, me too. I did.
Yeah, there you go. And that's how I ended up getting Hellboy. There's only, it's like me and Peter Birdking at the time. And somehow I got chosen to do the Hellboy gaming manual. And Mike didn't like me, but a lot of other people did. So I was able to, kind of force my way in that way. And then I suddenly went from like Moses to Batman. And then you kind of learn the industry is what it is. And
Moses to Batman. I like that.
Yeah, Moses to Batman.
That's how
that's Zach Howard's story.
Journey.
My religious journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, and kind of became disillusioned with that. I'm too much of an art pussy, and so I quit Batman, and then or all those books. I was doing like some side books while they're writing some miniseries, and was going to get into teaching and maybe just do sculpture and ceramics again. And young Chris Ryle walked up to me and asked if I wanted to do a zombie book. And then I became once that was Shaun of the Dead, and I just became an indie artist after that. And I enjoyed it so much more. But yeah. I always felt like I had to do something for the big two if they asked. So I went and did Spider-Man and Hulk and crap like that. And then I get miserable and then go do indie again. And
what editors did you work with when you were doing Marvel stuff?
Oh, who wrote my Spider-Man story? Good writer. What? I want to say his last name starts with a D. Panicia was my editor.
Oh, is it J.M. DeMantis or?
No, it wasn't DeMantis. It wasn't that. It was not Delgado. Does he do Paraponauts now or something like that? I think that's his book now. I am sorry, everyone I used to work with. I'm a piece of shit. Dan, if I have this problem, you gotta have this problem. Do people ever show you something you're like, oh shit, I did draw She-Hulk?
No.
I don't even remember doing it.
I mean, I used to remember. I mean, there's a few pages, inking wise, I'd look at, and I'm like, wow, I guess I did that. I can recognize a line. And what's neat about looking at like old pages is you look at them and you're like, you can remember exactly how you felt at the time, whatever was going on, whatever like little girl problems or life problems you had at the time. And I look at those pages, I'm like, wow, oh, okay, let me put that page away. It's weird.
It invokes something. I do that with my own work, but with like Marvel stuff, and I think this kind of is paramount to what's wrong with me. But I look at the Marvel stuff, I don't even remember doing it or even give a shit. And there's nothing wrong with doing Marvel stuff. I just think that's testament to what I need to be doing with my life is my own crap. And
I got to tell you, when I do when I'm writing my stuff, and if I'm writing and drawing it, it does not feel like work. I don't know how many pages Slops is total. It's 6 issues.
Yeah.
I recall 2 pages felt like work. That was it. So everything from the coloring to the drawing to the writing, all of it just felt like this is just fun. I'm enjoying every minute of it. And if you're doing even a cover of characters you like for like the big 2 or whatever, 3, it can feel like work at times. And you do feel sometimes like you're being maybe judged or your work is being held up, to someone else's. Like if you're doing something for New Mutants, you're going, well, geez, how are you going to top Bill Sienkiewicz, or
well, now I got a new paranoid, Dan. I didn't think like that.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thanks. I just always find myself like I got all these stories in my head and things, and I gotta hand this off to an inker who's hammering a check, and whether they're good or not, it's just never the same to me as working on my own stuff. I'd rather be hungry and happy than famous and you just gotta be happy with your work ultimately. And like what you're doing, otherwise, why are you doing comics? Yeah, I mean, you can dig holes for $18 an hour. I agree.
I've had a lot of crazy jobs prior to comics. Like I didn't break into Marvel until I was 21, and in between high school and Marvel, I had a lot of odd jobs. And you know what? I didn't mind really any of them. I mean, I wasn't good at a lot of them, but I didn't mind them, and but you could essentially be doing anything. But if you're going to do something that you love, that you may as well put 100% into it.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
And that's the problem I have with, I guess, the factory setting of working with, companies that have to crank out books, man. They got checks they got to make.
Totally.
And it took me a long time to realize I don't fit in that very well.
Mm-hmm.
I kept trying, and I would have like some really early success, and then people get really hot on me, and it would kind of freak me out. And all I ever wanted to do was just tell a fun story that like me and a couple friends are working on. And it's just, it doesn't, I've never had that experience in mainstream or big budget comics that I've been hired to do. Even Aliens, I thought I'd enjoy it more than I did.
I have friends I really don't even talk to that much anymore, but if I'm drawing comics, I'm essentially drawing it for us when we were, into comics.
Yep.
That's who I'm kind of helping, trying to recreate in my head,
Well, I have to say I read Unkindness of Raven. I mean, really a page turner.
Oh, thanks. I really would love to, if we could have done more with it. Maybe that'd be awesome. Thank you, by the way.
I mean, do you see yourself kind of doing more writing?
Yeah, I do. I prefer to write more, if I can. That's all I want to do. I just want to tell stories, basically.
Now,
I'd love to draw all of them. I wanted to draw Unkindness of Ravens, but there's just simply not enough time to do it.
I was thinking when I was reading it, I was like, I wonder if he thought about inking it, maybe.
That would have been fun too. I did think about that briefly.
It would almost be a bit of a clash though, because she's almost as spare as like Alex Toth.
Yeah, it's kind of, I don't know how I would describe that. I mean, some people were saying it has kind of an Archie vibe, but I don't see that. It has a clean sort of almost fashion sort of look to it.
That's actually, I think, exactly what it felt like to me. That kind of like classically trained fashion stuff, but then a nice little spin on it, or whatever, adapted really well to comic books.
Yeah, but I would have loved to ink it. I put who knows what that'll be, what it'll look like. We should have done a cover together. That would have been cool.
Yeah, some kind of collaboration would have been neat. But it was nice to have your little vignettes in the beginning of each issue.
Oh, thanks. Those were a blast because I got to pretend I was a like a old like Bob Peak sort of 60s 70s illustration style artist, and man, it was fun.
Oh,
I just wanted to have sort of a like an old timeless feel.
Yeah.
Well, it does feel like that. I mean, you definitely hit the dated, I guess, nostalgic look. I don't know if I'm using the right word there.
Well, it's like a period piece.
There you go. And it fires without feeling kitschy, which is always the difficult part of
I didn't want it to look like it belonged at all with that. So you're like, oh, this is really old work. This is stuff that just doesn't. It's certainly not. It's like for an old storybook, or like you pick up an old magazine and you're looking at artwork from there. I did an adaptation recently of this artist, writer, Lou Zixin, who's a famous Chinese author, and it was fun to adapt his work. But I wrote that also, but I don't consider it really truly writing because someone else had already, it really truly is adapting someone else's work.
You put it in New England. Have you ever spent time in New England?
Not much, but I grew up back east.
Oh, okay.
So I just love that sort of feel with the old trees and old homes. I mean, I live in California now, and it's funny, like these buildings that people consider old, at most sometimes they're only about 100 years old, maybe 100. Ancient Los Angeles is not that old.
No.
So, but back east, you have structures that have been around, for a very, centuries, and here we just simply don't. And I think that's it. It kind of Ravens kind of lends itself to that because it needs to start when the Salem witch trials started, and there were other witch trials that took place all over New England. So it doesn't necessarily, for advertising purposes, they always mentioned it was a Salem witch trial sort of thing, but it's basically all of the New England witch trials.
What did you name the town against? The Crab something or other, or
Crab's Eye?
Crab's Eye, yeah.
That's great.
I mean, especially like in Massachusetts, it's Mashpee and all these different like crazy, strange names for a town. I love it. They have great town names.
Oh,
those old places always do.
Yeah.
Yeah, my house is about is 1880.
Oh, really? That's amazing.
Well, yeah, it is amazing in some ways.
Yeah, I bet.
That's when you're fixing your toilet, pulling it out of the rotten wood. That's what you're thinking. This is so amazing.
Yeah.
I've become quite a handyman with this home.
Oh, but my house is about 10 years older than I am, which is pretty ancient.
That's scary.
Yeah.
I remember my Brit friends, whenever who was it, Woodrow Phoenix, I grabbed him at his hotel and he stepped outside in LA and he's like, everything is fucking new. He's like, he's from Whitechapel, London.
Yeah, we're like, built in the 50s or 60s and they consider that ancient.
Yeah, it's interesting, the spectrum.
Can we zoom in on Zach's? I want to see some of that. That's like sinister looking.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
I love the eyes.
I wanted to try some tones on it to make sure I'm setting it up right with some thin hatch marks so they kind of pull through. So I thought I'd do something.
No, it's very surreal. And you weren't afraid to go in there and throw in some heavy blacks on there.
That's my jam, man. Heavy blacks.
Yeah, but I know you like rendering too, and you can find like the little points of light and the little nicks in there, the stuff that Al Williamson used to do.
That's my man. I think that's the influence nobody ever picks up on there, Dan. So that's hilarious you picked that up because I mention Al all the time and no one ever brings him up. They'll say Adam Hughes or whoever's on their mind.
He had a great way of there's never really any truth. I mean, I'm sure there were. I'm not just talking out of my ass right now, but the solid blacks still had little nicks and nothing was a solid super shadow. Like you could still see texture.
Kniff did that too, right?
You know what? I love that guy's work. You can't say anything wrong about it. I just never studied it the way I study other artists.
I was later just because Miller used to always bring up Kniff. So I was like, well, shit, I got to look at Kniff now.
Maybe I should look at that more.
The new Terry and the Pirates edition, I want to say IDW is ridiculous. It's stunning. Mm-hmm. It just takes Kniff through the years.
Oh, wow.
The other thing about Williamson was that he never closed his line. Like if you look up close at any of at Williamson's stuff, he never connected the lines. Well, he didn't always feel the need to connect the lines. He would just leave blank.
To kind of do it.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah, maybe I'll go in with the electric eraser on here and open some lines.
Also like later on, Terry Austin started doing that, like where he wouldn't. It didn't work for Austin, in my opinion.
I didn't like Terry's version of that either. Some inkers it works, some don't.
Who does it really well is R.T. Bear.
Oh yeah,
R.T. Bear doesn't close a lot of lines, and he has a real bouncy style, and he pulls it off perfectly. It's definitely part of his look.
Yeah, he when he inked Dan Jurgens on Superman. That was my favorite. He was my favorite guy with Jurgens.
Yeah, that and of course the Aliens crossover with Nolan,
which was freakish.
Which was basically Nolan.
That's almost not Jurgens anymore. It's really just it.
That's someone inked by Kevin Nolan.
Yeah, it's like just a bouncing off point. But I think everybody's favorite version of Jurgens for me is either Brett Breeding or R.T. Bear. one of my favorite Howard Chaykin's things was he did a Marvel Presents issue, I think, and Terry had 2 weeks to do finishes on it. And, that's not easy to do.
No.
Yeah.
I thought, if you have to have somebody ink Chaykin, it should be Terry. That worked. They both sort of have that mechanical look.
Yeah, I'm trying to think who else would ink Howard really well.
That'd be a tough one. It'd have to be someone like Frank Miller on some weird drunken night or something to get that, I think, messed up nib with that.
I think you get Klaus Janson would
yeah. That slays everyone, right?
Yeah, he would kill it. Klaus is another one of my favorites, and Klaus would do great. They probably work together, most likely.
Chances are, from the era they came from, right?
Yeah, I like how you did that. The eyes, I guess, on Alien.
This little thing right here.
That's actually his elbow.
No, I know that's his elbow.
I mean, his shoulder. I mean, on the other side.
Oh, so the little swirly.
No, I meant like literally like that shape of their head where where an eyeball could be, like right above the mouth.
Yeah, when I did Aliens, I studied the living fuck out of them, and Chris Warner had me kind of tweak the design eventually because he wanted to make it his own. But I tried. This is my take on the classic. This is the alien from Aliens, kind of from. So, I got good at their head, but it has that weird kind of like Herkengurken shape that. If you kind of figure it out, you can really make some. I mean, this is the race car of fucking monsters, man. It is so perfectly designed. There's so much to do with it, and I think Mark and I had fun when there's actually aliens in our Alien book.
Well, it was all phallic. Who was the Giger?
Geiger.
Yeah.
Of course, it was phallic. You had to take a quick break from drawing penises to draw an alien real quick.
I watched Prometheus yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Have you guys seen that one?
I have, yeah.
You know the scene where the big white alien goes in and the monster fucks him in the mouth? I mean, it's just like.
No, I gotta see this movie.
You've never seen Prometheus?
No, it came out when I was drawing Alien, the 30th anniversary, and I think I wasn't in a state to appreciate much.
I liked it
at the time.
I liked it too. I thought it was a pretty good one.
I saw I was cooking one night and Furiosa was running from a giant donut, and I was like, well, I think I'm done.
I thought that was a great scene. I mean, I like anything that
literally running from a donut. Like, couldn't she just run left or right?
It was too big, Zach. I mean, she was going to get crushed by the donut.
But why away from it? There's a good 20 seconds there. Run left or right. Holy shit!
It's like an alligator.
Talking about that movie, Dave Johnson. He gets into it.
Yeah, well, I'll have to bond over him so he's not shitting on me for 5 minutes. I'm joking.
I haven't seen. Have you guys put the episode out yet with Dave?
Yes, we have. Had a lot of fun with them. I didn't collect Micronauts till I was a little older and started falling up. I lived in Germany when it was hot, so it was really interesting going over gold. And of course, I tried a really loose penciled one and took a shit on it. But Dave just. Holy cow.
Wait a minute. I did see what he drew. It's like a recreation, right?
Yeah, the cover. It was fireballs, man.
Yeah.
You know how JC and I met? Was me giving you Wild Blue Yonder. I had to reach around him.
I think I was hanging around your table in New York.
It was New York. I was there for Common or some shit like that. And I was just running around giving books out and wanted to give you one, Dan.
But you guys were talking about UFC or something.
Oh yes, because there's a fight that weekend.
And there's a great fight coming up. There's the
hell yeah.
Conor McGregor fight.
Triptych. Who you got?
Who do I got?
Yeah.
You know, every time I bet against Connor wins. So
that's how I am too.
Especially when he was coming up, all his trash talk. You know, he just played the heel, and I wanted to see him
get chipped,
get some, but then he just wipe everybody out. So
his Jose Aldo thing, I was like, okay, I'm a Connor fan now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a big that guy. Connor has so much confidence, and he's like a happy maniac. It's hard not to kind of like him, you know.
I agree. His endearment to what he's doing, I think, kind of wins you over. Even if, to your point, he is playing the heel. Yeah. You're like, well, shit. You know, you're like, I like this guy.
He's having such a fun time doing it. Like, he's loving every minute of every moment. He's definitely living in the now. So yeah, I appreciate that.
I'm envious of that. He's such a special person. That's one of the things I like about, you know, martial arts or just the fight game is the personalities you get. These wild assholes that of different stripes, to cocky people who you're glad got their head kicked off to the cocky people you just fall in love with.
Yeah.
I mean, who doesn't?
What you do with the tail there? That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. It's so different than how I draw the tail. You know, of course, my analytical brain's breaking every shape down when I was designing my alien. But, this one, I don't know. I'm glad we do different things. God damn, Dan, you're too fast, you son of a bitch. What the fuck?
Well, it's that inking background from when I was a kid. I don't have a lot of confidence in my drawing ability, but with the inking, I don't really second guess too much.
You got that magic, man.
And it's the same. I don't think Simonson does either. You know, I mean, those guys were pro. I mean, look at the amount of the volume of work that Simonson put out, and is still putting out.
Yeah, he's still. When Simonson was on Drink and Draw, and what I love about him is I think technically he is even better than he was 25 years ago, 30 years ago. Like, he's actually become an even better artist, you know, and I just don't think he's necessarily interested in doing the projects. Maybe, you know, why don't you write and draw Thor again? And it's just, he's been there, done that, you know, and he's moved on and he has other ideas. Just like all of us, we all have like so many things we want to get to, but he's technically as good as he's ever been, and if not better. And Joe Kubert was the same way. Like, before Joe Kubert passed away, his skill had never diminished.
Nope.
I actually really loved his later work, Kubert's. Yeah. I mean, a lot. I'm a Sergeant Rock dork.
Yeah, he just, you know, maybe it was the fact that he was still teaching and involved, and because whenever you're teaching, you're really kind of teaching yourself in a way, because you're reiterating things you should know or think you know about drawing,
or at least putting it in words so you know you understand it, right?
Yeah. It's like a mantra in a way, like saying a daily mantra or affirmation. I'm going to start crying any minute now.
There's so few guys who like Dan. I mean, you're one of these guys who you're still getting better. You know, every time I see one of your drawings, you know, you're improving. Some guys sort of just get stuck in a rut, and you know, and then, you know, sometimes they just get old, you know, and they can't.
Well, yeah, I do think that for a lot of people, like, you never know, you're never going to think it's going to happen, but I do think it does happen. Like, in some cases, your skills diminish. I remember I started having to use glasses, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, look at all this stuff I was missing. And I think my art jumped, like, you know, I made a huge leap because now I could see better. You know, I could see the detail. And
I fought glasses too. I'm like, I don't wear glasses.
Yeah, now I definitely need them when I'm drawing.
Oh yeah, I'm old man Howard now. Huh?
What?
Well, there's just this funny. There's this funny age when artists get to a certain age, things just start to get warped.
And well, also you get it. No one ever takes in fucking exhaustion, man. I think I talked about it on the other podcast. I've had the pedal down to the metal for so long, I don't know how to fucking take it off, and it might just be a fear response at this point. Because what happens if what got me to the dance doesn't work anymore? I don't know. That's why I like people with those bold styles like you, Dan, because I'm a noodly asshole, and it's a lot of it's a mix of fear and terrible OCD. Is I gotta reckon things in my head versus what I put on the page. I got that Cezanne disease, but you got the Picasso, where you can just sling that shit, and you have 50,000 pieces of artwork, and I'm still working on number 3, crying.
Oh, that's not true. Now let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
When you finish this, you'll probably put in Walt's signature, right?
Yeah, I trace it and then just sign it and apologize.
Now, is that going to be the hardest thing to ink, right?
It really is. It really fucking is, man.
That's going to be the hardest thing for me to ink, too.
I've never even brought it up because it's so esoteric. But
I mean, anytime you trace a penciler's signature that you're homaging or something, there's something to it. I don't know what it is. It's difficult.
It's more tangible because that's them at that moment, right?
Yeah. It's wild.
It's not this nebulous noodly shit. It's fucking Walt.
Yeah.
You can't pretend.
For you too. That's hilarious.
Yeah. Hey, Walt, here's a picture I drew of yours. I took a shit on your signature, though. Hope you like it.
I wonder what he's going to say when he sees this stuff. You know, it must be weird for him to see people like us,
full noodle with his things.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's something I started thinking about with this show, but then I had to stop because it made for a couple pieces of bad work. I was thinking too hard, you give me John Buscema, I feel like I'm fucking Clint Eastwood walking into town. But then you gave me like Mark Schultz and I didn't study. I'm like, what? Oh, I suck.
I don't know how I would do that. You definitely have to pull out a brush to do that.
I used the brush pen and I shouldn't have. I should have gone to actual brush.
Yeah. Get a nice little
split brush, something stiff.
Yeah, or some gray and a little bit of ink wash.
Yeah, yeah.
I just did this cover for another book I can't talk about yet, but Mark Schultz did one of the covers. Art Adams did one of the covers. We were looking at all these different variants of this thing, and the Mark Schultz one, man, it's incredible.
Is that the one? Is that the one that Paul Smith was supposed to do a cover for too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I did mine because Paul Smith backed out of it for some reason.
Yeah, he sort of went into a weird hibernation when with COVID. Last time I was in Colorado, Zach and I were going to go try and hang out with him, and he was just too freaked out with COVID and wanted to behave. But he's come out of it with a vengeance, lately.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of stuff, but I think this was probably the tail end of him. I don't know, but yeah, they needed somebody at the last minute, and luckily it was a fun project to do.
Yeah, I had reached out to the artist, the creator of the book, and asked him if he wanted me to reach out to Smitty.
Well,
I'm trying to be
careful
not to mention any names.
Yeah, I know, but talk about a guy who really goes to town on pieces. I saw the original pages to those.
Yeah.
The editor sent them to me, and I'm looking at them and just shaking my head, going, if this book doesn't sell, there is something wrong with the world. It is so much love, so much work on every single panel is masterful.
Yep.
I hope he kills it, because it'll destroy my faith in the world if it doesn't.
Yeah.
Have you shown Zach those pages?
No, but I will.
Please do. I'd love to see him freak out. You got to have him as a guest on there, and Zach will dig it, man.
I really enjoy inking other people's stuff. That's why I started doing it with Jeff. I have huge neurosis issues from like beginning to end with my crap when I'm doing it myself, and I'm very proud of what I do in the end, but it's an arduous journey for me. I mean, it is rough. So there's something about when I ink somebody who's super competent, like Jeff Johnson, whereas he has this like elegant construction and everything's there. I feel like I don't know. I just feel like I can jam, man. And all the stress goes away and I actually start smiling and I cry 30% less.
Jeff is really fun to ink. He's probably the person I've inked the most in my life.
Yeah.
You inked a ton of Wonder Man issues.
Yeah, most of the Wonder Man run, we did Legends of Supreme for Extreme Studios. Yeah. We did maybe some DC stuff, probably. Oh yeah, we did backups for Detective Comics for a while there. A ton of covers. Like I just, he's one of those guys. That's why I met Jeff. I met him because I was a fan of his work and I wanted to ink him, and then we became friends.
I think you did a better job than Terry on him.
I don't think so, but thank you.
Well, just in the sense that Terry's line was kind of getting a little brittle by that point.
I think Terry had. I think probably he was older and maybe he hadn't decided to wear glasses yet. I don't know. his line at that point was pretty uniform. Like there wasn't a lot of variation of thick to thin. It was but it's still Terry Austin. He still is making the right decision with every single line he put
Beautiful
down.
tick marks, flawlessly put down.
Yeah, he just wasn't varying it as much, but it was still, man, I remember, this story, everybody's heard it now 1,000 times, but Jim Shooter would say, if they had Terry Austin inking a cover, it would sell 30,000 more copies back in the 80s. And
wow.
It's true. Like I just sought out anything Terry Austin inked.
Me too. That's how I found Hawk and Dove. In doing that, I found Rick Leonardi.
Oh yeah. Rick Leonardi's stuff on Cloak and Dagger. I was like,
what?
Yeah, that was pretty crazy because you go from like loving Terry Austin on John Byrne, where Terry's spoiling us with all the inking love, and then you get to Rick Leonardi's work on that, and he's putting every single piece of detail in those alleys,
the buildings, and they'd be on the rooftop, and it just blew my little kid mind.
Yeah, I was just so enamored with that, like. In my world, like Rick Leonardi should be drawing everything, or you want to see him it's like Byrne. You want to see John Byrne tackle every single character, and I wanted to see Leonardi's take on everything too.
That's my guy, I think, for superheroes. I just pound for pound, there's something about Rick's construction, and then if Al Williamson was inking them back in the day, just fucking fireballs for me, man.
Somebody posted Leonardi inked by John Muth the other day.
What?
Yeah,
that'd be wild.
Really,
is it painterly or what?
Yeah.
It has to be, right?
Yeah, I guess it blew up a lot of guys' minds back then. But he also, I think, my favorite Leonardi inker, and people, not many people saw this, but he inked a few issues of like JLA or Justice Society, one of these JLA book with Sean Phillips inking it.
Yeah, that was phenomenal. Phillips is a master storyteller too, so
it was so good.
I got to ink him on a Predator story for man. Talk about intimidating.
He's had some good ink there. I think Pennington inked him. There was a guy named I forget his name. There was a guy who inked him on Nightwing for a while who was really good. Delperdang.
Yeah, Jesse.
Delperdang, really heavy hand brush. It's gorgeous, man.
Yeah,
and his containment line was always the neatest thing to see.
You want to talk about confidence?
Oh, sorry, Dan. What were you saying?
Oh, I was just saying. Interesting fact about Jesse. Like, he's doing a lot of penciling too, and he's got a really interesting style.
He kind of hopped out of social media. I really liked his work, but one time he posted a page by Rick Leonardi that he had inked, and I can't remember what the series was. And he said, if you look at this page, he goes, I ink each panel I inked in a style of a different artist. Oh. And so he had done a page and he's like, I inked this one in the style of Neil Adams. I inked this one in the style. So he was just going from panel to panel. He was just bored and was inking them in different artist styles. And you wouldn't probably not have noticed unless he had pointed it out. And this was years after the book was published.
That's so cool.
That's a neat little Easter egg. It's better than Al Milgram's little fuck yous he used to put in the bookcases.
Everybody did that though as an artist, man.
Yeah.
I got books with dildos sitting on a bookcase of decently nice people. I don't know why they have a dildo on their bookcase, but they certainly did that night.
But that's the page you bought for some reason.
Oh yeah, I have that one framed. I'm looking at it now.
Look at that thing. I mean,
that's a nice dildo.
I cut the dildo out of the page and sold.
I couldn't draw a lot, but a lot of things very well. But I had dildos down like day one.
We did that at Extreme. Sadly, I remember there was an artist, and we filled his drawing table up with male anatomy parts. But we drew them in all the different styles we could. So there was like
you had like a Rob Liefeld dick and stuff.
Yeah, there was Jim Lee one. There was a Rob Liefeld. There was Steve Ditko, and the guy got back and saw it, and he just thought that's how we felt about him. His feelings were really hurt, and then we all felt awful. But it was, man, it was pretty funny. I wish if we had iPhones, I would have, there would have been a million pictures of that thing,
Oh God, if there was iPhones back in the day, I probably wouldn't be able to be hired.
Yeah, I'd probably be without a job.
Yeah, you and I'd be collecting quarters down at the park.
Yep.
So Dan, you were in Vegas recently. Is that the deal?
Yeah, I went to Torpedo Comics. Man, what great guys they are. They really know how to host an artist. It was fun. Went with Dave, Jeff Johnson, and Joe Quesada, and our buddy Ben DeFeo.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so it was the whole Drink and Draw crew, and they put us up, and great hotel, and man, it was fun. I felt normal again during COVID.
Well, that's great. That's the hardest part. I went out for a beer with my wife, and I felt like I was breaking the rules.
Yeah,
it's like should I hold the mask in my hand?
Yeah. Tim Townsend said it's business as usual in Florida, but it's Florida.
Yeah. So he still inks Bacalo, right? That's really right. That's the only place I find him these days.
Yeah, he doesn't ink as much as I'd like him to ink, but he's probably happier. Who knows?
Yeah.
Inking's not easy, especially when you ink as tight and controlled as he does. He's really like that guy's a machine. Tim.
Precision pen work, man.
He's got a hell of an art collection too.
He's got one of the most enviable art collections out there.
He had like all those pages from the Galactus Byrne's Galactus one where Galactus like falls over and everything. He has he at one time had all 12 pages of it, framed or something like that.
Yeah, and then he'll sell it for something else. And I mean, he's definitely, he helps me price all the Drink and Draw, all the art I do for Drink and Draw.
Oh, cool.
Because I really don't know current, art collection prices. So he's great with that.
I never know that stuff either. I got yelled at for how I used to sell my stuff. So I have a dealer now that I actually trust. And now I feel gross for when people tell me how much they paid.
Yeah. I
like paying my mortgage, though.
I do like that part.
It's pretty nice.
My wife loves that, too.
Yeah, wives dig that.
Yeah.
I've noticed.
I got to thank you for that recently. It was kind of a pleasant surprise.
Oh. Way to be a one-upper.
Yeah.
But that was that's the famous Arthur Adams quote. Like there's some guy went up to him at a Comic-Con, with a camera, and he's like, what do you have to say to, what's your inspiration, for all of this unbelievable artwork? He's like, my mortgage. I have to pay for this house.
Yeah.
That's a sad part of taking a lot of jobs.
Yeah.
Oh, I have this great idea, but I'll do Dark Superman because that I like to eat.
Yeah. No, I'm so happy now that I'm writing more and getting that opportunity. And here comes you want to come in? Here, Christaki, come over here, buddy. It's my son.
Colt is the boy's name.
His name's Christopher Colt.
Christopher
Colt.
I know that's a great name.
Epic, sir.
But my wife is Greek, and the nickname, like the cutesy nickname for Christopher, is Christaki, and it really kind of stuck. Colt doesn't roll off the tongue as much as I'd like it to, but when he's older, maybe he'll call himself Colt.
Colt Seaver. Colt Seaver.
You know, my middle name's Duke, so it's Duke and Colt.
Duke's a good one.
Yeah, I wish I would have went with that. You know, like Mark Texiera signs his name Tex, and Bisley's the Biz. I could have just been Duke.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be the Z.
Yeah.
Z.
There you go.
No, I have no cool nicknames. I have like 17 real names. So my parents, I don't know if they're drunk or what, but they couldn't decide.
Yeah.
You've got multiple middle names?
Zachariah John Paul Howard.
That's a long one.
Try spelling that in fucking first grade.
Oh, that's not easy.
It was a pile of shit, man. I used to cry. And I was terribly dyslexic, so school's not fun at first.
No, especially with a name like that. I wanted to change my middle name to Steve because I like Steve Austin.
And Colt Seaver. I actually met the actor. What was his? Who was Steve Austin? What was his name?
Lee Majors.
I met Lee Majors.
Yeah.
I was in L.A. They were a location scout came to my place and they're like, "We want to use your apartment for that movie, I Am Sam." Remember that movie, I Am Sam?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So they're like, "We'll give you $5,000 and we're going to put you up at Shutters while we film." And they moved all of our stuff out, painted the place, shot on location, and we were at, I think I was either at Shutters or one of the other hotels, and we're sitting at the bar, and all of these beautiful models walked by, like dozens of models, and I was like, "What's going on?" So we followed them down the hall. It turns out it was the Independent Spirit Awards was being filmed in the ballroom.
Oh.
And so we just let ourselves into the ballroom. I'm walking through. I walked by. Who was the guy who directed Green Mile?
Oh, famous comic book collector himself.
It was
Frank Darabont.
Darabont, yeah. And so I looked at him. I said, "You're Frank Darabont," and he was like, "Yes." And so I talked to him for a few minutes, and we just managed to get into the Independent Spirit Awards, and you know, they were just. It was just filled with famous people, free alcohol. We're hanging. We sat at a table. It was fantastic. But meanwhile, the $6 Million Man was like right next to me the whole time.
That would have been cool, man.
Yeah.
Well, he
has tons. I don't know if he sold some of it, but he had a ton of Bernie Wrightson Frankenstein pages.
Right.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah. So Tim actually introduced me to him, and Tim was he was out here for some reason in LA, and Darabont was having a dinner with him and Brad Street and Bernie Wrightson and Drew Struzan. And Tim invited me to come with him and my wife, and his house is like just a shrine to Drew Struzan and Bernie Wrightson.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I think one of those Bernie Wrightson Frankenstein pieces just sold for like $1 million or something.
Wow. No wonder Bernie's not. I mean, Frank Darabont's not directing something right now.
I think it was either Frank or Del Toro bought it. I can't remember.
Man.
Might have been Del Toro.
Yeah, seeing those things in person.
They're big, right?
They're really big, and they're just as beautiful as you can imagine.
Yeah, he was another guy who sort of had different gears, you know, like the early stuff was, you know, real brushy. And then he got into that sort of intricate stuff that he did on Frankenstein. And then his later stuff, he kind of downshifted.
Yeah.
You know, he was doing like the Weird for DC and a couple of, you know,
the Cult.
Yeah, the Cult. That's right. That's what it was.
Yeah, I remember seeing those. Bill Ray. I was kind of doing backgrounds for Bill Ray. I was inking backgrounds, and Bill Ray was coloring the Cult, and seeing that stuff. That was blue line coloring, where you'd have a clear acetate over it, and it was interesting to see that stuff firsthand. In the way, you know, that was premier coloring at the time. Like it was painted color as opposed to.
I miss that a lot, man.
Yeah.
Well, he's a hell of a painter. I mean, that stuff, the comic book stuff he was doing at that time, to me, was almost sort of impression. I mean, it was like bright pinks and crazy colors. And then
I wasn't a big fan of the colors at the time. I was like, wait a minute, this is, you know, I was a traditionalist. So seeing him approach Bernie Wrightson with these kind of garish outlandish colors. It was a lot for my little mind to handle.
Well, I love watching you guys banter back and forth, on Facebook.
Yeah, he's always giving me hell.
He gives you hell about everything, but you take it in stride, which is
well.
fun.
He's like a big brother to me. He's like a mentor. So what am I going to do?
Yeah.
That's how I am with Dave.
Yeah, I don't know.
Sure
a lot of
I
people
love
give
every
me
second
hell.
of him telling me what's wrong with myself.
Yeah, he definitely has. Dave has all the answers, of course.
But I certainly love it, man. To be able to get the attention of someone I admired so much artistically that inspired me. That's the great thing about this field is there are some heroes out there that are worth meeting, and you get to work with them sometimes.
Yeah, Dave. I send Dave a lot of my work, and he'll critique it and send it back and say change this or change that, and it's kind of heartbreaking. And then I'll disagree with him occasionally, and then I look at it with fresh eyes, and I'm like, no, he's right, and I'll change it better. So,
does he ever send you his stuff?
Yeah, on some stuff. I mean, it's just sometimes you need a fresh look. But yeah, I mean, Dave's stuff is it's like nitpicking at that point.
Yeah,
he's coming along. I think he's going to make it, Dan.
Yeah, I think he might make it. But that's what I appreciate. Dave is really good at taking criticism. I've kind of forced myself to be good at taking criticism. It's really the only way you're going to get better. Like sometimes, you'll show someone who's not even a comic book fan your work, and if it confuses them or they don't understand what those type of lines represent or mean,
yep.
Well, that's a potential, fan, or not potential fan in some cases. It's not comic book people, but it's a civilian. It's someone that's going to
fresh eyes, right?
Yeah, I remember I've told the story before, but like my father looking at me inking Jim Lee, like, what are all these stitches on this guy's face?
Right.
It was me trying to be Scott Williams, but it looked like stitches the way I was inking it. And I said, you don't understand, Dad. That's the style. But it stuck with me, and I'm like, oh, I guess all these lines really aren't just lines. I need them to, as an inker, I have to represent shadow and do a little bit better job of showing the shape or the curvature, and really, even if just knowing what you're drawing, whether it's a cheekbone or a rock, understanding what that is while you're inking, or even just tracing the lines of an artist, is always going to help you be a better artist or better inker.
It's always building neurons, right?
And
it's an accretion process. I've found is there's seldom an epiphany. It's taking a hammer to a rock. You got to beat the shit out of it for a while. At least with me, I'm not a prodigy, so I pretend to be one.
I like that, but you're a big brute of a man. You got a hammer, you smash something.
Big giant goon. So you're a big giant asshole too, there, Dan. I
was such a skinny kid. I loved Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. My dad was kind of a tough guy. He was a pro boxer before he was an artist. So my mouth got me in a lot of trouble. So I had to hit the weights.
Had to learn how to get those knuckles going, huh?
Yeah, I used to have like rings on every finger because I was.
Oh no!
Yeah, I was like you lose a fight or two, and you're like, well, that's not happening again.
Nope.
Yeah, it's not fun, is it?
It's not.
Fucking sucks.
No, especially when your dad's your dad was a pro boxer. If you came home and you lost the fight, it's worse to look at his eyes. It was terrible.
I bet, man.
Yeah.
Is that where slots came from?
A lot of it. I mean, not necessarily him. He's not based on him by any stretch of the means. It's more, if anything, the Stanley Dance character is probably Brett Lewis, if you know Brett Lewis.
Awesome, man.
Brett is such a character. But yeah, my dad's influence in those. And yeah, the slots was a combination of like all my dad. It's kind of like a ode to my father and all the fun movies he had me watch, and his kind of, he just loved boxing, and as a result, I love boxing. But
he was a boxer and an artist.
My father, yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, he's really good. I mean, he boxed boxed as in trained until he passed away.
Hmm.
Yeah,
that's That's amazing, and obviously lends to then your ability to probably understand fisticuffs or at least physical struggle a little bit when drawing, which always helps. You can always tell when people have no clue.
Oh yeah, it looks ridiculous. That's why Jeff is but I was going to say Jeff is such a good, combat artist.
We bonded over that. Like, we were at some con where, like, there's a music festival that same weekend. It was free, so nobody came to the show. I think it was Milwaukee. So I got to hang out and really get to know Jeff, and we bonded. He's Army, I was Marines, and we enjoyed all that stuff. And what a neat guy. I like guys that have done shit. I get bored with most people's, but Jeff definitely not. He's seen some stuff, and he does it with a smile on his face. It's very admirable.
He's a happy guy.
He's in town. He's coming over. I'm going to make him breakfast tomorrow.
Uh-oh.
No kidding.
Yeah, and then we'll probably go out and have lunch with Dave.
That sounds good.
We're going to send him back to Oregon well fed.
I got to sign the signature, Dan. Did you sign yours?
I didn't even attempt mine. I was.
Maybe I should do mine later.
I might just. Yeah, I'll do mine later. That's too difficult.
So I'm having enough trouble. I don't know how good my crap turned out talking because I'm paying attention to you.
It looks beautiful. I can't wait to see the proper scan of it.
Excuse me?
Oh, I can't wait to see the proper scan of that drawing.
Oh, I will. I'll get it a little so we can.
Oh, that looks great.
Yeah.
That looks awesome.
Wow.
Yeah. Made it a little more painterly.
Yeah, a little ink wash going on. Very cool.
Yeah, not bad. Let's see yours real quick, Dan. See how you do it right.
Let's see.
I love it.
Fucking kablamos.
There's a lot of crap. And
it looks like Simonson inked by Topi.
Oh my God. Oh, Dan. Damn it. So what we do at the end of this is JC pays you to give me that piece of artwork.
That's right. Yeah, you just you say the number, and I have to give it to you.
Wow. No, you know what? I'll have Tim Townsend say the number.
No, that's too dangerous.
Yeah.
You always threaten me that you're gonna, or threaten yourself that you're gonna trade art with me one of these days. Damn you!
You want it? We could trade this one.
I'll take it.
All right.
One day I'm going to be able to afford a Red Sonja from you, but we'll worry about that another day. I will steal this from you, though, Dan.
Right. Well, Dan,
that's cool.
Yeah.
I know so much pressure with the 12 viewers of Blacklist. You're going to hold you to it.
Yeah, they'll know.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure.
It was a blast.
We hope to have you again. And next time we'll do. Who's your inspiration, Coletta?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Anybody you want, anybody you want, we'll have.
We'll try and Buscema or.
Ooh, dueling Buscemas. That would be pretty cool.
That'd be fun.
I love that, man. His pencils are like butter, man. I just fucking pull out my toast and go to town.
That would be fun. So next time when I can talk about my mini secret projects, we can maybe do that.
Would love to have you on when you can talk about your 13 projects. I only got one secret project, but I'll talk about it too. So,
all right, well, I'm gonna end the broadcast and we can start sharing some secrets. All right. Anyways, thanks for coming to the Blacklist Underground.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for having me. Cheers.